Hi, everyone. This is Maura Sweeney, and welcome to episode 14 in the ABCs of Now. If this is the first time you're tuning in, this is a special series of podcasts where we are actually going through the alphabet, but in reverse, from the letter Z back to A. And what we're doing is looking at words and concepts anew and afresh, searching through what maybe we've acquired over time, through the ages, through our own upbringing, schooling, social conditioning, and any other kinds of conditioning, to determine how much of what we've learned in elementary style really is truth. So if this again is your first time, I encourage you to subscribe to my podcast, which you could find on iTunes, Stitcher, and several other platforms. And it's Maura Sweeney, Living Happy Inside Out. How many of you have said to yourself, wow, I just wake up in the morning and I'm wondering what next is going to happen or what next is going to change? Whether you live in New York or New Zealand, you recognize that the world as we once knew it is changing. It doesn't matter what background people have come from. They all recognize that things are no longer what they were. Things are kind of on this up and down course where we know that what was is not going to be in our future. But my sense is that all of this is taking place because individuals are waking up to a new frontier, so to speak, a new era, a new way in which to live. And while many think this might be the end of the world, I want to suggest to you it may very well be the beginning of a new and a better world, one in which the truth within you is something that you find anew and afresh, something that registers with you and resonates, and that you begin to live outwardly your truth. And as we do, we may very well find that we live in a happier, more peaceful, harmonious world, and one in which we find that there will be far more solutions rather than problems, and unity rather than division, and love rather than discord that we have often seen around us. So, episode 14, as we're going backwards, happens to coincide with the letter M, as in M for Mary. But in this case, M stands for money. Now, those of you who have been following on this program might have said, well, gee, Maura, what happened? I got stuck on 13. I haven't heard from you in a while. Each one of these episodes comes to me only in the moment, or let's say the time and the day in which they're supposed to come out. And I got finished with the letter N, and I thought, okay, what is M, and when is M coming? Well, M did arrive a few weeks ago, and yet I still didn't get the context or the contents for it. And about a week ago, I had another word that I needed to add to this letter M. And for whatever reason, I had been precluded from releasing it until now. So let's just trust and believe that there's a reason for episode 14 coming out today as it is. So episode 14 in the ABCs of Now is this. M stands for money. Money. Now that's a very powerful word. It's a word that conjures up all kinds of emotions within people, positive as well as negative, things that people aspire to, things that turn people off. It's just a colorful word. And as I was waiting upon what I was going to get in this episode, another word came along as if it was going to be a word of an adjective to describe money. And this was the word magic. M stands for magic money. So what I'd like to do, which is what I've done in pretty much every episode, I want to give you some dictionary meanings for the word. And as I do, I want you to just think about it, and I want you to not have any, let's say, conclusions about it one way or the other. I just want you to take in some information and trust that what is within you in terms of your own knowledge, your own awareness, I'd say your own soul, and what your soul knows about your relationship or experiences without money will be allowed or given opportunity to speak something of truth to you, okay? And I'll tell you why else this is an important concept, is that so much of the world in which we've lived has revolved around money. Money is a power, money is an agent, and as I got this second word, this adjective to describe it, the magic that appears to surround money. And once we go through it, I'm going to leave you with a couple of thoughts and ideas so that you can go on your own little path and determine what money has done to you in the way of magic, and also how might you be able to undo, unravel, and separate yourself from the magic of money, and then reacquaint yourself with money as more of a currency, but not necessarily one that gives you that sense of magic, or one where you're under magic. So here's what we go with. Definitions for money. Number one, money is a commodity, such as gold or silver, that is legally established as an exchangeable equivalent of all other commodities and is used as a measure of their comparative values on the market. So when I heard this, what I was thinking of was gold and silver being universal measures of money that other currencies could be, let's say, attached to, so that when people are looking to make a trade, they can make a trade on an equal footing. All right, the second definition for money is this: the official coins, currency, and paper notes issued by a government, such as here in the United States, we have dimes and quarters, and we have dollar bills. If you go to Europe, you find yourself instead trading in euros. Number three, as a definition, is any unspecified amount of currency, such as how much money do you have? Doesn't matter whose currency it is, but it's just a general term. Now, this I thought was rather interesting. The root word for money comes from Latin, and the word there in Latin was moneta, M-O-N-E-T-A, which does mean money or mint from moneta. It was an epithet of Juno, whose temple in Rome housed the mint. So a mint would be the very places where coins are, let's say, stamped with a seal, but they're also measured, they're put into a form. And if you've ever been to a mint, you probably know what I mean. So, money, a generic substance, let's say, whereby people can exchange one equivalent for another. Now think about that. If you think about the root for money, and that as a general term, you could think about money as I'm going to do something and you're going to do something, and what would be an even exchange for that. Sometimes when there's not opportunity to barter, we then can use currency, or in this case, money. You can, in a sense, not see anything too emotional connected with it. But when you look at the next word I got, which was magic, it gives a completely different, let's say, twist or turn to the concept or idea, or even the imaginations and emotional concepts of money. So what does magic mean? Well, number one, magic is defined as the art that purports to control or forecast natural events, effects, or forces by invoking the supernatural. It does sound a little bit like magic, doesn't it? Number two, the practice of using charms, spells, or rituals to attempt to produce supernatural effects or forces by invoking the supernatural. Number three, magic is the exercise of sleight of hand or conjuring for entertainment. It's the use of premeditated deception or concealed equipment to produce baffling effects. Have you ever been to a magic show and you're watching something that you're thinking, how in the world did that magician do it? And those who have studied magic have learned that the magician is bringing the audience's attention to one area or one spot as he is doing a sleight of hand, let's say, somewhere else. So the people's attention is diverted so that the magician can accomplish his so-called magic. All right. I'll give you number 4 as a definition of magic, and it's this. Any mysterious or overpowering quality that lends singular distinction and enchantment. Now, when you put the words magic and money together, do you see how they can work together? And perhaps start to begin to understand that in the current world in which we've been living, the one that's been going on for quite a while and appears to be suffering some gasps of breath as things are in the process of change, that a lot of magic has been infused into the notion and the concept of currency or money. Now, I want to give you a couple of questions to ask yourself. And this is the way I want you to ask them to yourself. What if money didn't matter? Now, the reason why I was coming up with this question is that when you think of money as carrying some form of magic, some supernatural sleight of hand to it that literally does cause people to, let's say, work or operate in ways they normally wouldn't or naturally wouldn't. By asking or framing the question, what if money didn't matter, gives you an opportunity to take a breath and to look at the idea of money through a different set of eyes, maybe in a more detached way. So what if money didn't matter, or what if money were not a factor or an issue? Meaning, what if money didn't carry the power of magic that we apparently give to it in nearly every aspect of society? What would be the implications of that? What would happen if we all had enough money for all of our needs and our wants? How might then we choose to comport ourselves? What friendships might we strike up? What communication with others might we be inclined to exit out of because money is no more an object? I sometimes think about money and I think about all of the external trappings it can purchase for some, and yet all of the lack it can exclude for others, and therefore how many people may choose to align with one and not the other, or admire one and try to distance themselves from the other. Believe it or not, they do it in both ways. If you were to think about where you'd like to live, what schooling you would like to pursue, and maybe what kind of a career you would like to attain to, would it be affected if money didn't really matter, or if money were not a factor? I can tell you sometimes when I go out and I recognize that even in places like our school systems here in America, because of the so-called lack of money, we've eliminated so many art programs and so many music and band programs because we lacked the money. So what does that do to the souls and the outworking of creativity and the fuller expression that many young people may never get a chance to tap into because there's a lack of money? It also makes me wonder about the arts in general when we think about maybe the value that they would offer to society. If people could go out somewhere And they could listen to live music of local people who put together bands, who play all kinds of instruments, who write music, maybe those who enjoy dancing. How about those who really have the innate ability and talent to exercise other types of arts? Maybe it's the arts to design clothing or to make furniture or to build things. How might the world appear differently if money no longer dictated or helped to fashion or determine or shape by force the areas that people pursued, that they felt a calling to, an interest in, a passion for, or even a curiosity about? And in some cases, I could even point toward people who might be interested in healing herbs or different modalities to heal people. Maybe some people do want to go to school and they do want to learn how to heal people, but they say, wow, I just can't afford the expensive tuition. How, therefore, might all of us have lived if, again, money really didn't matter? But let's take it into another realm. Let's take some people who think, wow, if money didn't matter, I would probably prefer to go somewhere and to help poor people. Maybe poor people wouldn't exist, but let's say people who were in need, maybe people who had certain physical infirmities, people who weren't able to do everything for themselves. Maybe there would be people at libraries spending their time reading to young children. Maybe others would learn to have time free to watch others' children and give some moms some free time. Maybe there are moms, maybe dads, who would like to spend time home with their children and really nurture them, or travel and see places of the world and maybe learn about the world in new and direct rather than indirect ways. Maybe there are some people who would love to open up bed and breakfast establishments, but they don't have the quote-unquote money in which to purchase a larger home to do so. Think about the people, I hate to use this word, but I'm going to, who kowtow to others' opinions because they look at others and think, I need to stay in these people's good graces. Sometimes it has to do with the industry we worked so hard to be part of, and maybe we're not always in agreement with what's going on. But yet, because we fear losing our job and therefore our money, our income, we keep ourselves very quiet and our opinions to ourselves. I could think about that in a myriad of ways. Maybe we are in an area of public service and someone is holding a threat of money over us. Money maybe that they want to give to us if we're willing to compromise our values, or maybe they are willing to hold our taking or our accepting of money against us because it caused us to compromise. I want you to give some thought today to M stands for money. Consider it in light of maybe some belief systems that you've acquired over the course of your lifetime, both positive as well as negative. I want you to think about a world, a society, where decisions aren't necessarily being made because of money, because of the magical powers of money. Think about how you might live slightly differently, or maybe in a main way or a big way, you might live a different sort of existence. And consider whether the world might be a little freer, a little bit more harmonious. But think about the roles that you can play even now in terms of lessening the magical effects that money has. I want to throw in a few more things. Money definitely does have its magic pro and con. Some people, because they possess money, are able to, let's say, control the behaviors of others and dictate to others because of their money. But sometimes people have money and they wonder if their friends are really their friends because others see the money that they have. Think about what that means for you in terms of your relationships, in terms of your relationship with money. And finally, if you want to do a little bit of information gathering, you might want to even look up some information on the history of money because it is a fascinating tale. I remember being in Greece and I was able to go into a very ancient museum, and what I saw were minted coins from, oh my goodness, it could have been before the AD era. And what I was fascinated or drawn to was the fact that even a couple of thousands of years ago, there were coins that, rather than being circular and being perfect in their appearance, in shape, actually looked like they had been picked a little bit at the edges. And what I learned was that even many years ago, people used to pick away or chip away at the weights of old silver and gold coins. And here's why. They were hoping that they could still pass along those coins as if they still carried the same face value, even though the weights had been reduced. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about money, whether here in America, in Europe, or anywhere overseas, and how money that maybe you put a lot of your trust in over the course of time is not worth nearly as much as it used to be. If you're really curious and you live here in the States, you might want to even look up the history of the Federal Reserve Bank here in America, which at first glance appears to be the federal or national bank. What you might discover is that it is not our own federal bank, but it's a privately held bank, held by individuals we're really not sure of. They may or may not be citizens of the United States. They've never before been audited. So this is an organization that often controls our money supply, that prints money for us, and we hold confidence in those dollars that circulate. And it's, to some degree, you can see that money does have a magic quality in that we attribute to it or give to it a value at times that it may not necessarily be good for, okay? It may not be money that is as true as we believed it was. And sometimes when we're able to see through a little bit of the sparkle, a little bit of the magic that's been surrounding it, we may be able to take away some of the veneer and also dispel some of the beliefs that we've attributed to money and some of ourselves, some of our own soul that we have given away for the purpose of money that we may just want to take back again for ourselves and for the benefit of our souls and our lives. So that's been my thought today on this episode of episode 14 in the ABCs of Now, that M is for money. See what it'll do for you. I encourage you to save this episode, to share it with friends, and definitely tune in and subscribe to the rest of the series so you could go back and forth and think about where you're going to be on the other side of this now. The world is waiting for a brighter, bigger, happier, and more authentic you. And a brighter world won't happen unless you show up there too. Take care until the next time. This has been Maura with Maura for You.